The transport ship lurched through the void, carrying Lieutenant Marcus Webb toward a fate he never imagined. 3 weeks ago, he'd been a decorated officer in the Terran Defense Fleet. Now he sat in the cargo hold of a Draxian merchant vessel, hands bound, surrounded by crates of exotic goods and other human captives destined for the outer colonies. The Draxians had won the war through sheer numbers, not superior tactics. Humanity had fought brilliantly, but billions against millions was a mathematics problem no amount of courage could solve. The treaty that followed was brutal. Humans would serve as labor, as entertainment, as whatever their conquerors desired. Marcus had been assigned to a mining magnate on Krell 7, or so the manifest claimed. But when the ship docked and guards dragged him down a different corridor, he knew something had changed. They brought him to a chamber adorned with ceremonial banners, where a Draxian official with silver scales and too many eyes waited beside an iron cage. Inside the cage stood a woman. She wasn't human. Her skin held a faint luminescence, shifting between pale blue and silver. Her eyes were entirely black, reflecting light like polished obsidian. Delicate ridges traced along her cheekbones and down her neck. Despite the chains binding her wrists and ankles, she held herself with unmistakable dignity. "This is Lyra," the official announced in accented standard. "A Valith female, last of her diplomatic caste. The Valith resisted our expansion most foolishly. Now she is a gift to you, human. Our records show you refused 3 Draxian females offered as companionship. Perhaps you prefer exotic flesh." Marcus stared at the official, comprehension dawning with sickening clarity. "I never asked for anyone. I don't want. Your preferences are irrelevant. You will accept this gift, or both of you will be sent to the labor camps, where life expectancy is measured in months, not years. The Draxian Empire is generous. We provide you a mate. You provide us with obedience." The official gestured, and guards opened the cage, shoving Lyra forward. She stumbled but caught herself, chains rattling. Her black eyes met Marcus's for one brief moment, and he saw something there he recognized from his own reflection. Barely contained fury wrapped in forced submission. They were transported to a small habitat unit on the station's lower ring, meant for workers who served the Draxian elite. One room, minimal furnishings, a viewport showing the brown curve of Krell 7 below. The door sealed behind them with electronic finality. Marcus immediately knelt beside Lyra, examining the chains. Energy shackles, designed to deliver pain if she moved too quickly or strayed too far from the central control node mounted on the wall. "Hold still," he said quietly. She watched him with those unsettling eyes, saying nothing. Marcus had spent years in fleet engineering before transferring to tactical. He understood Draxian technology better than most humans. The control nodes had a flaw, an oversight in their security protocols that assumed captives lacked the technical knowledge to exploit it. He retrieved a thin piece of metal from his boot, a makeshift tool he'd hidden during processing, and began working on the node's access panel. "Why?" Lyra's voice was soft, with harmonics that seemed to resonate in his chest. "Why what? Why do this? If they discover it, they will punish you severely. They chained you like an animal. No one deserves that. Many humans would see advantage in keeping me restrained." Marcus paused, meeting her eyes. "I'm not many humans." The panel clicked open. He carefully rerouted the power feed, watching. The energy shackles glow fade from red to amber to nothing. The chains fell away. Lyra stood slowly, rubbing her wrists. The luminescence of her skin brightened slightly, and Marcus realized it was tied to her emotional state. "You have made yourself vulnerable," she said. "I could harm you now. You have no weapons." "Could, but won't." "How do you know?" "Because you're not looking at me like an enemy. You're looking at me like you're trying to solve an equation." The corner of her mouth twitched upward. Among her people, it would barely register as an expression, but Marcus caught it. Your species is fascinating. The Draxians call you weak, but they needed 100 ships to conquer each of your worlds. We're stubborn. It's our best and worst quality. Lyra moved to the viewport, staring down at the planet. The Valith were fewer than humans, but we held 3 systems for 2 years before falling. The Draxians cannot forgive resistance. They make examples of those who defy them. Is that why they caged you specifically? I was a negotiator before the war. I convinced 17 neutral species to deny the Draxian Empire passage through their space. It delayed their expansion by a decade. Her reflection in the viewport showed a sad smile. They remember me. Marcus joined her at the window. What happens now? Now? She turned to face him fully. Now you become a target. By freeing me, you have declared yourself an enemy of their order. They will not execute you immediately. That would be too simple. They will watch, waiting for you to make another defiant choice, building evidence. Then they will make a spectacle of your punishment. You're saying I should put the chains back on you. I am saying you should understand the cost of your compassion. Marcus thought of the 3 years he'd spent fighting the Draxian advance, watching colony after colony fall. He thought of the surrender ceremony where human representatives had been forced to kneel for hours while Draxian generals gave speeches about humanity's proper place in the new order. He thought of every small humiliation that followed, every casual cruelty disguised as policy. Let them watch, he said. Over the following days, they established a careful routine. In public, when cameras and guards were present, Lyra wore the shackles. Marcus had modified them to appear functional while delivering no actual restraint. In private, they talked. Lyra told him about Valith philosophy, about a culture that valued harmony and strategic thinking above warfare. We are not pacifists, she explained, but we believe violence should be the final option, not the first. Marcus told her about Earth, about oceans and forests, and the ridiculous diversity of his homeworld. We spent so much time fighting each other that when a real threat arrived, we almost didn't unite in time. Almost is sufficient. You did unite. That is more than most species manage. On the 8th day, Marcus was summoned to a work assignment in the station's recycling sector. The Draxian supervisor, a brute named Krell with scarred scales, immediately noticed something different. Your slave seems healthier, less fearful. Have you been feeding her your rations? We share everything equally. Krell's eyes narrowed. The inferior serves the superior. That is natural order. Perhaps you need education in proper household management. The blow came fast, a backhand that sent Marcus sprawling. He tasted blood, felt his lip splitting. Around them, other human workers kept their heads down, knowing intervention meant sharing his fate. Krell loomed over him. Tomorrow you will report with your slave. We will inspect the control settings on her restraints. If they are not configured for maximum compliance, there will be consequences. Marcus returned to the habitat with a swollen face and a time limit. Lyra examined his injuries with gentle fingers that somehow felt cooler than human touch. You should comply, she said, though her tone suggested she knew he wouldn't. They'll discover the modifications anyway during a detailed inspection. Then we are both condemned. Maybe, or maybe there's another option. Marcus pulled up the station schematics on the room's limited terminal. Officially, human residents had no access to this information, but fleet training had taught him about backdoors in Draxian systems. He found what he was looking for, a maintenance shaft that connected to the docking bays. There's a freighter leaving for the neutral zone tomorrow night. If we can reach it before departure, if the captain is sympathetic or greedy enough, we might buy passage. Lyra studied the schematic. The shaft passes through 3 security checkpoints. We would need clearance codes that change hourly. Can you get them? She looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. The Valif have certain abilities the Draxians never documented. We were negotiators and diplomats for good reason. Our neural patterns allow us to interface with technology in ways organic beings find difficult to detect. You can hack their systems? After a fashion. But Marcus, if we attempt this and fail, our deaths will not be quick. And if we don't attempt it, we'll live as their property until we stop being useful. I'd rather die trying. Something shifted in Lyra's luminescence, brightening to nearly white. Your species truly is remarkable. Foolish, perhaps, but remarkable. They spent the night planning. Marcus fabricated a maintenance request that would place him near the access shaft during shift change. When surveillance was lightest, Lyra would use her abilities to loop the security feeds and generate false clearance codes. The timing had to be perfect dot at the appointed hour. Marcus walked through the recycling sector with a toolkit and a repair order. His heart hammered against his ribs. 2 guards stood near the shaft entrance, bored and inattentive. He approached with practiced nonchalance. Emergency repair order. Coolant leak in Junction 7. 1 guard checked his datapad. The clearance code Lyra had generated appeared valid. He waved Marcus through. The shaft was cramped and hot, filled with pipes and conduits. Marcus moved quickly, knowing every second mattered. He reached the first checkpoint, pressed his stolen Cretin.